Our topic today has to do with simplifying fractions. The essential question is, what do you know about fractions that simplify to the same fraction? So to simplify a fraction, you divide the numerator and denominator by a number that goes into each evenly. A fraction is in its simplest form when the only number left that goes into the numerator and denominator evenly is 1. So we're going to dive right into some examples. Simplify these fractions to their simplest form. So we have 48 100ths. In order to simplify it, you got to think of a number that goes into both 48 and 100 equally. And since I know that they're both even, a number that really comes to mind is just 2. So you're going to divide the numerator by 2 as well as the denominator by 2. Okay? So 48 divided by 2 is 24. 100 divided by 2 is 50. Okay? I see again that I can simplify it even further. I can divide them both by 2 again, the numerator and the denominator. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Okay? And a number that goes into both 12 and 25, the only number that goes into both is just 1. So since the numerator and denominator, the only number that goes into both of those is 1, I know that this fraction is in its simplest form. So you need to know that 48 100ths is equal to 24 50ths, which is also equal to 12 25ths. These three fractions listed right here are all exactly the same size, okay? So if on a math problem, you had to do an operation where it dealt with 48 hundredths, if you wanted to simplify that number down to 12 25ths, you would get the exact same answer at the end if you use this number in its place, okay? So these three fractions are basically interchangeable. They're all equal to each other. Now, in previous lessons, you might have heard that you can go 48 divided by 100 to get the decimal. And you definitely can do that because remember, fractions are also division problems. So if I go 48 divided by 100, we get 48 hundredths. Okay, so this fraction as a decimal is 48 hundredths. Well, you know what this fraction is as a decimal? I'll show you. 24 divided by 50. And you get the same exact answer as a decimal, 48 hundredths. 12 25ths is also 48 hundredths. So these three fractions are equivalent, okay? If you're curious why I didn't want the answer just to be a decimal, it just simply says that we're supposed to simplify these fractions to their simplest form. So that's why we just kept it as a fraction, okay? If the question had asked us to write it in decimal form, then we would have done what we've done right here, okay? But when we simplify fractions to their simplest form, you want to keep dividing as far down as you possibly can go until it can no longer be simplified. In previous math classes, you might have heard the word reduce, and I don't typically use the word reduce simply because reduce implies that something shrunk. And honestly, these three fractions are all equally the same size, so I don't use the word reduce. I use the word simplify to make it look more simplified, okay? So we simplified it. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify this next fraction into its simplest form. I don't want it in decimal form. I want it in its simplest fractional form. So a number that I can think of that goes into both 30 and 40, I think of the number 5. Some of you might have thought of 10 or 2. It's okay, whatever one you use, just use it and be consistent. Divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number and simplify it all the way down, okay? So when I divided by 5, I would get that it simplifies down to 6/8, but I can go even further because I can divide it by 2. So that simplifies to 3/4. So 30 40ths, 6/8, and 3/4 are all equally the same size, okay? Number 3, think of a number that can go into both 100 and 250 equally. And I'm thinking of 10. You might have used 2 or you might have used another number. And your answer will work too. Just simplify it all the way down. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. 250 divided by 10 is 25. And I think I can divide by 5. So that would be 2/5, and that's as simplified as it gets, okay? So these three fractions are also equivalent, okay? And if I looked for each of their decimals, it would be the exact same decimal. 100 divided by 250 is equal to 10 divided by 25, which is also equal to 2 divided by 5. And if you did that and found their decimal form, they would all equal 4/10. Okay? All right, for number 14, think of a number that goes into 17 and 18 equally. The only number that does is just 1, and you'll see if I just divided it by 1, it still equals the exact same thing. So that was kind of pointless. That's why I wrote this part right here. A fraction is in its simplest form when the only number left that goes into the numerator and denominator evenly is 1. So that was the only one that did it. So that's already simplified. Okay, that's already in its simplified form. For your summary, I added 2 more problems right here. Go ahead and simplify these fractions. I want them in their simplest form. Yes, rewrite them and show what you got, okay? All right, fractions that simplify to the same simplest form are equal to each other. So that's super important. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use this first example right here. I want us to go ahead and shade 4/12 of this diagram here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we want to shade in 4 of them to represent 4/12. Okay, and I want you to go ahead and write another column right over here, and I want you to write simplified form, because we're going to simplify all of these fractions into their most simplified form, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify 4/12 all the way down. So I'm thinking, well, I can divide it by 4 and divide by 4, which would equal 4 divided by 4 is 1, 12 divided by 4 is 3, 1/3, okay? And I want to go ahead and show you what, in another format. Instead of using like the brick looking things, I want to show you what that would look like over here. Okay, so you see we have 12 of these 1/12 pieces. Oops. Since I have 12 of them, they form one whole, okay? And it's supposed to be all nice and organized here, but I moved it, I'm sorry. So there's 12/12, and we're looking at 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them, as our notes showed, 4/12 should also equal 1/3. And remember how I said they're the exact same size? It's because they are. Here I have 3 1/3 pieces. See how they form one whole? Well, if I took this and I placed it on top of this, you'll see that what's the exact same size, you'll see that the 1/3 and the 4/12 are the exact same size. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/12 is equal to 1/3, okay? Which is exactly what we just showed in the notes right here. 4/12 is equal to 1/3. 1/3 is its simplest form though, okay? All right, let's go ahead and represent, shade in 3/9, please. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 pieces right there, and we're going to shade in 3 of them. And look, that is the same exact size. So when we simplify this fraction right here, let's go ahead and divide by, let's see, 3, and divide by 3. When we simplify it in its simplified form, it also equals 1/3, okay? They are equal to each other. So you can use 4/12, 3/9, or 1/3 interchangeably in any math problem because they are all the same exact size. They're all equal to each other. Okay, let's go ahead and represent 2/6. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces here. 2/6 of that looks like that. See how it's the exact same size? So 2/6 is also equal to 3/9, which is also equal to 4/12, and they all simplify down to the same exact fraction. Let's simplify it down, and we get 1/3, okay? So let me go ahead and show you over here. Here I have 6 1/6 pieces. They form one whole. And we were saying that 2/6 is equal to 1/3. Okay, so 2/6 simplifies down to 1/3. They are equal. 2/6 is also equal to 4/12. So here are 2/12, and then together makes 4/12. 4 1/12 pieces, okay? See that? Oops, sorry. It's hard to do this while I'm filming too. I'm holding the camera. Okay. So now let's go over here and let's go ahead and represent 1/3. There's 1, 2, 3/3. So 1/3 would look like that. And see how they're all exactly the same size, okay? And 1/3 in its simplest form, just show it. 1/3 is equal to 1/3 in its simplified form, okay? So again, all these fractions right there, they're all the same size, so you can use them interchangeably, all right? Typically, as you move up in math, and you have an answer that needs to be as a fraction, typically the instructor is going to want them to be in their most simplified form, okay? So you might want to just get in the habit, if you end up with an answer of 3/9, you just want to just go ahead and simplify it all the way down to its simplified form, okay? So let's go ahead and summarize this. So 4/12, 3/9, 2/6, 1/3 are all equivalent. That's the word we use, equivalent, which means they're the same size. They're all equal to each other. So what I want you to do is you're going to pause the video and you're going to write 4 fractions that are equivalent to the one that's provided, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just show you what I got. Keep in mind, if you come up with a different answer than the one I provided, you're probably still right, but the way to make sure is to make sure it simplifies down to the exact same number, okay? So 4 fractions are equivalent. Well, what's equal to 1/4? Well, 2/8. Because when I simplify 2/8 all the way down, divide by 2, it equals 1/4. So I know 2/8 is also equal to 1/4. Another one would be 3/12. Okay? When I simplify 3/12 all the way down using, like if I divided by 3 and divided by 3, I would end up with 1/4. So I know that all 3 of these are equivalent. Another one would be 4/16. Another one would be 8/32. I know the directions say write 4 fractions that are equivalent, but I'm going to just go ahead and write 5. 100 4/100. Okay? So all of these fractions right here that I wrote in pink all simplified down to 1/4. And you know what you should know about their decimal? When you find their decimal, it's all going to be equal too. I'm just going to prove it to you. So 1 divided by 4, because fractions are also division problems, you get 25/100. 2 divided by 8, 25/100. 3/12, so 3 divided by 12, same thing. 4/16, same thing. 8/32, 100 4/100. Okay, 25/100. And you see that right there? Another fraction that I could also write that would equal all this is literally 25/100. 25/100. Okay? So if I went 25 divided by 100, still get the same exact fraction. If I simplify 25/100 all the way down, so I would probably divide by 25, divide by 25, I would get 1/4. Okay, so all of these fractions are equivalent. They are all the exact same size. They are all interchangeable. Okay? All right, next one. 9/72. Let's see. Oh, I know it's not simplified all the way, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify it. I can divide by 9, and get 1/8. Okay, so I know that those two, oops, that's 1/8. Those two are equivalent to each other. I can multiply this by 2 and multiply this one by 2 and get 2/16. Those are equivalent. I'm going to multiply this one by, let's multiply by 3 and then multiply the denominator by 3. So, oops, I'm sorry. 8 times 3 is 24. Okay, so 3/24. I can multiply by 4, so we get 4/32. And let's see, I'm going to multiply it by 100, by this one by 100. You get 900, 7,200ths, I guess is how you say it, okay? And what you should know about all of these decimals, they would all be exactly the same. And all of these fractions would all simplify to 1/8. So if you sat down here and simplified the fraction all the way down like we did on the front page, all the way down, they would end up with the exact same number of 1/8, okay? So real quick, 9 divided by 72, that 125 thousandths, 1/8, 125 thousandths, 125 thousandths, oops. Okay? I hope you get the point of what I'm trying to show you here, that all of these fractions are interchangeable. They're all the exact same size, okay? All right, let's try the next one, 25/60ths. Let's see, let's go ahead and start by, let me just simplify. Let me divide by 5 and divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 60 divided by 5 is 12. So these two are equal to each other. I'm going to take this, I'm just going to multiply it by 2 times 2. Then I'm going to go, let's multiply this one by 3. And I'll go ahead and multiply, let's go ahead and multiply this one. No, I'll do this one. Multiply this one by 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. 12 times 4 is 48. Okay? Or I could have just doubled this one. 10 times 2 is 20. 24 times 2 is 48. Okay, and I'm gonna, let's go ahead and multiply it by, I don't know, 100 or something. Let's go multiply that by 100. Okay, so I'll just do a couple just to show you that they're all equal. Their decimals will be equal. Okay. Now, number 4 is 6/9. Let's go ahead and find at least 4 fractions that are equivalent to it. So I could simplify. No, it's not simplified, so I can divide by 3 divided by 3 and get 2/3. 2/3 is equal to 6/9. I'm going to take this one and double it, 4/6. I'll take this one and multiply it by 4. This 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. And then, let's see, go ahead and multiply this one by 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 5, 15. Sorry, brain fart. And I'll go ahead and just like multiply it again. I'll multiply these ones by 100. 200, 300ths. Okay? For your summary, I added a number 5 right here. And your directions are to write 4 fractions that are equivalent to 1/3. Okay? In each row, a fraction is given. For each row, find other equivalent fractions to the one given and shade each circle to match its fraction. You will see that each fraction in the rows will be equivalent to others in that row. I'll go ahead and do the first one with you. So we have 3 circles right here, and they're divided into sections. And the only information that's really given is this 2/8 right here. So according to the directions, I need to match this fraction with this representation of it right here. So 2/8, there must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 8 sections, and we'll just shade in 2 of those sections. So there we have 2/8. So what can we do over here with this circle to have it equivalent to 2/8? Well, let's see. It was this part right here, and I'm going to shade in this part on this circle, and you'll see that both of them match because they're both equivalent. And what would be the fraction representation of this circle right here? Well, 1 out of the 4 is shaded. So this shows me that 1/4 is equal to 2/8. So now over here, I want this circle to match these circles right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and shade in so that they're equivalent. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3 shaded out of how many? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now you'll see another equal sign right here, and that's to answer this question. What do all the fractions in this row simplify to? So let's go ahead and simplify them. Let's see, 3/12. A number that goes into both 3 and 12? Well, 3 goes into both. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I'm just going to write it right underneath it. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 3/12 is equal to 1/4. All right, let's go ahead and simplify this one. A number that goes into both 2 and 8 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Oh, look, so 2/8 is equal to 1/4, which is also equal to 3/12. And does 1/4 simplify any further? Nope. So something that you should learn, that you should know is when fractions simplify to the same fraction, that's written in simplest form, then they're equal or they're equivalent. So these fractions, all that you see up here, are all equal to each other. They all simplify to 1/4, so these fractions are equivalent to each other. Now go ahead and do the rest of this page by yourself. Right here they'll give you 3/9, so you'll shade in 3/9 and then fill in these circles to match this, similar to what we did up here, okay? And you'll find that these three fractions will also be equivalent, because when fractions simplify to the same fraction that's written in simplest form, they're equivalent. Then make sure to tell me what those fractions simplify to. Down here, I want you to write each fraction to match the picture. So what is the fraction that matches the picture? And you'll notice that they're all going to be equal to each other. And I want to know, what do the fractions in this row simplify to? You can write your answer right there. But before moving on, please make sure you answer this statement. When fractions simplify to the same fraction that's written in simplest form, then they are what? Write it in. The directions for this page are the same as the previous page. So what you'll do is, you see this circle right here that's shaded in, you're going to write the fraction that matches this. From there, you're going to go ahead and have two equivalent fractions to this and shade their circles also to match, okay? And then you'll go through and you'll simplify each one of the fractions and answer this question. What do all the fractions in this row simplify to? And you'll write your answer right here. Okay? And you'll answer this one the same way. And down here, you'll see that there's a lot more that you'll have to do, but they will all be equal to each other. And I want you to answer this question. What do all the fractions in this row simplify to? Write your answer right there. For your summary, I want you to answer this in a complete sentence. What was the main point of these notes? What should you have learned from these notes if you haven't already learned it in the past? What was the main point of these notes?